Johnny Organo, and you're listening to the Turnbuckle Tavern Podcast.
It's Wednesday night, and you know what that means. It's time for the All Elite Wrap-Up. It is me, the OG Fit Kid, and today joining me, as usual,
it's the ace of the tavern, Stephen ACEFIELD. Happy to be here, Tom. Just the two of us, man. We're going to get a lot of our shit in tonight.
That's right. There's a lot of holler neck going on tonight from Mike and Nick Storm down in Australia, but it's all right. We got this, Ace.
Of course we do, man. Just more time for you and I. The New Yorkers can get here and take control.
That's right. We could turn it into our Yankee talk right here tonight. And just
exactly. We could spend all podcasts talking about the MLB trade deadline. That was insanity.
Dude, it was crazy. It's always fun when you see that many trades. But we're not here to talk about that tonight. We're here to talk about AEW, and we've got some news to get into. So
let's fucking go.
What do we got, Ace? What do we got?
Juan Soto's All Elite. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Start with for people that watch baseball, maybe you find that funny. If not, you're like, who the hell's Juan Soto? And I guess that's the problem with baseball at this point. Anyway, let's start with the news. And it starts with our main man, Eric Bischoff, who I'm very familiar with in 1996 because he's leading the charge in shot nostalgia, but he's still trying to stay relevant today. And he came out firing about AEW, and he's been a pretty vocal critic of what they're doing. So he made an appearance on the Out of Character podcast with Ryan Satin to discuss a wide range of topic. The thing that made the news mostly was talking about AEW and its, I guess, area of competition with WWE. And he had said they are absolutely not competition. And the quote I want to show you, Tom, is you're not just in the same business. It's kind of like having a little mom and pop hamburger stand on the corner and saying that you're in competition with Arby's. It's just not true. So he's really taking a shot at AEW here. Do you think he's on point, or do you think he's just talking Eric Bischoff shit at this point?
That's a tough one. You know what? Is he on point? You're talking about WWE, which is like a global friggin' company. So I'm not going to say he's on point, but he's not far off either. It would take a lot for AEW to take over WWE. I mean, not even comparing products. I'm just talking about the size of the company, the followers. People who don't know wrestling still know WWE. They don't know AEW yet. So, I mean, I kind of get where he's coming from, but I think there's still a competition for the wrestling show. You know, like it is an alternative. Is it major competition that WWE has to be scared of? Not today, but who knows what down the road will bring, you know?
He also mentioned the ratings thing, and we have used it as a crutch to talk about ratings and how they'll never reach the peak of where it was in the Attitude Era. And he had said that it's not really an excuse anymore because AEW should not be down. WWE should not be down due to the different platforms you can actually consume these products. It's down because wrestling's not as popular as it was. And that might be him patting himself on the back, giving himself the old Barry Horowitz. But I think he's on to something. I don't know if we'll ever reach the peak of where it was, but I still think there's something to people watching wrestling, consuming in ways on Twitter, watching it in forms of GIFs, watching it in forms of YouTube the day after. You can't quantify that with the Nielsen ratings. It's just not possible.
Dude, I've said it time and time again. Our rating system, the Nielsen rating system, is so outdated. How anybody even goes by that anymore, especially when DirecTV knows exactly, just for an example, DirecTV knows exactly how many people watch what on their system. If you're watching on Hulu, they know exactly the numbers on Hulu. So it's like, we don't get those numbers. And I don't know if they get those numbers, but it's got to be much more accurate than what the stupid Nielsen rating system is. And the fact that we still use that and they taunt that and brag about it means nothing to me. It's just crazy. It's an outdated system that, they've got to come up with a better way, or especially like you said, I follow things through social media. There's things I follow and I don't watch on TV, but I'll throw something on my iPad and stream it. I'll throw something on my phone and stream it. I don't have to watch it on TV anymore. And I bet you a lot of younger generation people are never sitting in front of their TVs watching wrestling. They're going to be checking it out on their phone. They're going to be checking it out on their computers. They're going to be checking it out anywhere else but sitting in front of a TV. I think our generation, and you're a little younger than me, you're probably the end of this. These kids don't just sit around and watch TV. So.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up with the internet. I mean, my age bracket, I knew a time when there was no internet, and we've grown up with it.
Yep.
But I think tapping into what you're saying about assessing these ratings in a more meaningful way, think about the NBA and how they look at things. Commissioner Silver, he's ahead of the market in a lot of ways, and a lot of commissioners can learn a lot from them. And Tony Khan, he's in the sporting world. He should understand that ratings aren't just about shares on whatever that number would be, 2.9, 1.8, what it looks like as far as viewers and homes, because that's antiquated, as you mentioned. I think social media and clicks and all that stuff has a place in assessing your popularity and who's trending and all of that. But to rely solely based on these ratings on Nielsen and talking about, not that we're here to talk about TV ratings, but the only reason it holds a place is because that's the bargaining chip that they have for these conversations about their renewal of these TV deals. So I pretty much think that's where it's at. Until TV executives look at it in a different way, I think we're going to have to put value in it.
Yeah, and what about this? You talk about ratings is one thing. What about WWE and AEW? I guess it was maybe 6 months ago. They both played the UBS Center about a couple weeks apart.
Yeah,
and AEW almost doubled the amount of tickets sold than what WWE did. That's saying something. When you go into the same area within weeks and one double sells the amount of tickets as the other one, like, where do you stop looking at what the TV ratings are? Where,
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of it has to be said with, you could talk about market saturation and the fact that WWE runs that market much more than AEW does. But just the fact that they're both able to sell out that building makes you guys on the same level playing field. And you can have the conversation about maybe WWE doesn't consider themselves a wrestling company, and that's fair. They're an entertainment company. They're much more than what wrestling is. But AEW is still in its infancy at this point. What are they, 3-4 years old? So where they are at this point, the fact that they're even able to competitively offer money to WWE talent and have ratings that are even close to comparable, it's almost embarrassing on WWE's side. It should not even be this close. You should have been able to wipe them off the map. And the fact that WWE has been so complacent since WCW went out, truly, they've just kind of coasted and said, we know better than you. AEW has spawned from that.
Yeah, but let's. What was my point going to be? I hate when I have a point and it just slips out of my head. Let's go. Okay, so the guy who used to say it wasn't a wrestling company isn't there anymore, and I never understood anyway why. Like, I understand you do more than wrestling, but what built that company and got it to where it was a wrestling company. The shows you put on Monday and Friday nights were wrestling shows. I never understood why Vince wouldn't embrace the wrestling and just build the other parts of the company around that. And it seems like we got wrestling shows back on Monday and Fridays for now, and not just an entertainment show like Vince wanted to be. And I'm here for that. But listen, let's just see what happens for the next few months with WWE rebuilding their brand and rebuilding it around wrestling. So.
Yeah, just to put a kind of an end cap on it, as far as competition goes, are they the same level of competition that WCW was for them at one point, threatened to put WWE out? Of course not. WWE has guaranteed money in these Peacock deals, the NBC Universal deals. Despite them putting on shitty products, it doesn't matter. They're guaranteed this money. And of course, AEW is never going to put them out. But that's not the goal at this point. Competition is pushing each other to put a better product on your television screen. And we all win from that. And I think that's the point that a lot of people are making, is that we finally have a second option to push the other person a little bit ahead.
Yeah, and it's good now that this was a little sneak peek for the debate show for this coming Monday, but we talked about it. Should AEW be worried about Triple H, and should they up their game? So it's competition for AEW now with a guy who's a wrestling mind in charge. We had all these guys who were going to run to AEW that wanted to be more on a wrestling show on pro wrestling. And we saw Triple H, what he did with NXT. So it's going to be interesting. It's a fun time to be a wrestling.
Well, what a great transition that you just had there, Tom. That's why you're a true professional here, man. Class act. Tony Khan appeared on his regular spot on Busted Open Radio and was asked about what he thinks about Vince McMahon stepping down. And he gave a very politically correct answer, but he did say something there. He had said it's good for wrestling. It's good for competition. He's going to have to step his game up. So you guys can go read the transcript from that from Wrestling Observer. It's also on Fightful. You guys can find the transcript of it. Essentially, he acknowledges that it happened. And he says Triple H is going to make him up his game. And when it comes to contract negotiation, because we've seen in the past, a lot of the guys that he's interested in getting, the Adam Coles, the Keith Lees, the Aleister Blacks or Malachi Blacks, it becomes, those are Triple H guys. And you have to think, maybe Tony Khan isn't able to collect all of them if Triple H is in charge much earlier down the line.
Dude, that's 100% true. And if Triple H is even in charge at the time they left WWE last year, it might have been different. But the bottom line is, it happened. They're over there. They're over there now. But it's going to be interesting to see. And here's the other thing: is what, I think it was the debate topic was, should AEW up their game with Triple H? Why aren't you always trying to up your game and make your product better, no matter what is going on, no matter who your competition is? That's what was wrong with WWE for 20 years. They had no competition, but they didn't care and they didn't try to up their game. As an owner, I always want to up my game. Always try to make it better. Always try to bring a bigger audience in and make more money. That's the goal at the end of the day, right? Better product is going to bring you more revenue.
But sometimes you get so big, you lose sight of who you are. And I think that's what WWE became. And that's okay. I think they would sign up at, 10, 15 years ago, they would have signed up for exactly where they are. I think anybody would have signed up for where they are. And I don't think anyone could have imagined they'd be as socially acceptable as an entertainment source in any way. We talked in the newsletter, 1996, they're talking about UFC as a blood sport banned from cities. So yeah. WWE at one point was looked at as this Carney Road show, and you couldn't have it in big arenas. It used to be in, Triple H said it was in the back of bars. I wouldn't say there, because they were selling out Japanese arenas. If they want to whitewash that history, that's fine. But Vince made it a socially acceptable entertainment source in North America.
Oh yeah, he's the one that went all in on sports entertainment and finally admitted there was that there was a fixed outcome, but he had to do it to save fees that they were paying, because to everybody he was paying for it to be a real sport when in reality it wasn't. So as a businessman, I totally get where he was coming from with that. And let's be honest, everybody knew it was scripted anyway.
Yeah, there's some arenas that they run still that the athletic commission still oversees it, so they can't have certain blood. And yep. I think AEW has been fined, and so has WWE in the past when they run certain arenas. And there's threats that the fire marshal would shut things down if you're bleeding too much. So it's out there. I mean, some of the states are antiquated in how they measure these sports, and it's kind of gnarly as far as I think. Also, too, you got to look at some of these matches and how far they step their game up. Look at these GCW events, man. It's insane, the amount of blood and like the gore. It's insane.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on in the news here. We have Chris Jericho was appearing, and he sat down with comicbook.com for an in-depth conversation for all things pro wrestling and beyond. So to go and check this out. The main thing he had said here, and we talk about this all the time, and I think we say it here. I think, Tom, you had said this best. Nobody hates pro wrestling more than pro wrestling fans. And the way that Chris Jericho put it was pretty appropriate. He said, Chris Jericho said Star Wars fans and wrestling fans are very similar. They complain about everything, but they buy everything. And his quote was, I always find that wrestling fans, KISS fans, and Star Wars fans are all very similar. They hate everything, complain about everything, yet support everything and watch everything and buy everything. Do you see some truth in that, Tom?
100%. I mean, they're not happy unless they're complaining about something. They can never just be happy. It's ridiculous, but just take it in and love it, man. You don't have to go on the internet and hate. And I would love to know what this world would be like. The wrestling scene right now today, if we didn't have social media, with everything going on, it'd be such a different world.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue on the other side of it too. Would we have the product we have? Reality-based product was. I mean, AEW probably exists because social media exists. If you want to pull that thread, I don't know.
I mean, that's another excellent point. It's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
True.
So
there's good and bad, but I think with the passionate fan base, that's always a good thing. We're going to consume. We on Fig Night, go check out Fig Night Tuesday nights, guys. We always have great guests there, and Tom does a great job with Nick and Mike. But with wrestling memorabilia and wrestling product, think about the amount of wrestling we watch, just the Tavern guys.
Yeah.
GCW, NWA, New Japan Pro Wrestling, AEW, WWE. We watched the Ric Flair match on the Discord. There's so much wrestling to consume. Yet, I mean, sometimes on the show, it becomes, I would like to say we're not as negative as some other podcasts are, but there is a tinge of negativity because we're passionate and we care. And I think the only way you're going to get with passion, you're always going to get complaints because we just want a better product always.
Yeah, I try not to, and I think most people at the Tavern do, and I know Chad is like this too, but like we want WWE to be better when it was so boring for so long.
Yeah.
We weren't hating on it, just calling it crap. We wanted it better because as wrestling fans, we know the whole like Chad says, what's the whole expression? The tide rises, everything goes up.
Well, rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Rising tide lifts all ships. So, like, if WWE is better, it helps the whole wrestling community. If AEW is better, it's going to help everything. So, I want everything to be better. I'll be constructive. I'll give constructive criticism on what I don't like. And damn, WWE went out this week and put on a much better version of Raw than what we've seen in a while. And we've seen more wrestling on their television in the last week and a half than we've seen on TV from them in the last year. So.
Solid point. Putting some meaning behind the U.S. title, but we could talk about that all day. Let's move on to the next spot in the news. And obviously, you guys, Bryan Danielson came back last week, and we've been missing him. He did say and revealed a little bit more about the injury he was dealing with, and he had revealed during the sessions that was live on Renee Paquette's session during StarCast 5, which was really well done. I only watched the segment that for this interview.
It was amazing.
But Tom, you said you watched the whole thing. Want to speak to
Go
it a little
listen
bit?
to it. No, it was dropped on her podcast today, the whole interview. I listened to it on my ride to New York today, and it was just an amazing 1 hour listening. I love Bryan Danielson. I got the name right. I had to check real quick. I have it written here. I love him. I love everything about him. But and listening to him today makes some solid points, not just about wrestling, but in life in general. So it's well worth checking out.
So highlighted here, amidst like the really good stories he probably tells in the conversation and the camaraderie he has with Renee, because if you remember, he did Talk and Smack with her, which was awesome television at one point.
They very much went over that.
So he says he assumed the doctors would talk him into retirement following his latest concussion. And the quote was interesting. He said, the doctor said, after you start feeling better, we're going to have a serious talk about your long-term health. And Bryan said, I thought what it meant was after you feel better, I'm going to talk to you about not wrestling anymore. Then my brain scan came back so goddamn good that not a single person could say anything about it. I do put a lot of work and effort into keeping my brain healthy and doing things outside of normal stuff to keep my brain healthy. I think that's paying dividends a little bit. So he also went into discussion about how medicine and doctors and everything has become so, I guess, better able to assess his health. I mean, he talked about a hyperbaric oxygen therapy he did and just about being able to assess his brain. And I think in a different world, if he had this concussion in 2001, I don't think he's wrestling anymore.
Dude, I think it's the same thing. It's what kept him out the first time he had the concussion when Vince and the doctor kept him out. But now there's been, over the last 10 years, he was talking about how much further the advances have been in this on concussions in the brain and all the studying they've done. And he's done, and he details everything he's done. And it's just crazy listening to what he's done. But it's like, wow, this is a guy who cares about his health. He wants to do what he's, been doing. And it proved what he's doing is working, that he was able to come back from this concussion the way that he did, because, if he wasn't doing this, he might have been done. He could have been done. But it was a fascinating interview, and what he knows about the brain is probably a lot more than even some doctors from all the research he's done.
100% story, because it has what happened over here, Tom. You're moving me
back, and that happened.
Oh, okay. Well, I switched sides. It feels good over here.
Ah, there you go.
All right. So, speaking of Bryan Danielson, there was news in the newsletter from Meltzer's newsletter that dropped on Friday. And he talks about how AEW is able to extend a wrestler's contract when they have been out of action due to injury. This has been something that no one really knew.
WWE is the same thing now, so that's not shocking.
Well, this is what he was saying, that Tony Khan was apparently said not to be doing this, but Meltzer confirmed he is. And we talked about Bryan Danielson. WWE's ability to freeze his contract was a pretty big deal back in 2016. So Bryan was stuck in this weird spot where he wasn't able to be released until he was activated. His contract was frozen, so he was never fully activated. He would have been stuck as a legend in a legend deal.
Oh, wow. That's
so
crazy.
If he's unable to fulfill his in-ring duty as an active wrestler, he'd be stuck in this limbo and never be cleared. And I think that's probably what Vince was hoping for, especially with AEW looming on the horizon. So the fact that Bryan came back, he he was able to fulfill his duties and get out there. And he had mentioned in that interview with Renee about how when he went out to wrestle Edge in the main event, I think it was WrestleMania 37, he didn't feel anything. And that's when he knew it was time to leave WWE.
Yeah, he also some great stuff about how you won't like this, but how he hates the Miz in real life. They hate each other, but he wouldn't say a bad thing about him and says he just commends how hard he works.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Miz fan, as you guys all know, and maybe I'm going to be the resident Miz hater, and that's fine. But I respect Miz for what he's done and what he's been able to do from being a real world reality TV star into no one talks about that anymore. He's a pro wrestler. So like he was able to bridge that gap. We all talk about Logan Paul and he is a social media YouTube star. If he's able to be in 10, 15 years, a pro wrestler, he did his job and Miz has done his job. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Definitely, guys, check out that interview with Bryan Danielson. It was amazing.
All right. So moving on here in the news, we had a website teaser promoting the upcoming Fight Forever AEW video game. Pre-order has been set for New Year's Eve. That's a placeholder, obviously. So the other things I want to get into, and I'm not sure if you guys talked about this on Fig Night because I only caught some of it. So AEW's Fight Forever's Deep Career Mode highlights life on the road. Players can create and develop their own wrestler who joins the roster and appears in matches and stories over an event schedule. The website also revealed wrestlers can be customized with movesets, entrances, arenas in the game. They can have a wide range of customization, including attire. So it's very similar to the gameplay of WWF No Mercy WrestleMania 2000. So that's when people are a little bit ripping on the graphics. But I don't know if you saw anything about this. And are you a video game guy at all time? Are you pumped for this?
I love wrestling video games. I play I buy 2 video games a year, usually the WWE 2K22 and MLB The Show. I'm going to have to add a third to my list now. Yeah, I mean, listen, people are criticizing the graphics, but let's be honest, we have no idea the graphics that they showed. Were they from the PS4 version? Were they from the PS5 version? People need to chill till they get it in hands and actually see what graphics that was. And it didn't look terrible to me. And as long as the gameplay is great and it's fun, and you know what, the graphics will get better as time goes on. And again, they didn't look terrible, so let's stop.
People wax poetic about those games when we were kids. No Mercy, Here Comes the Pain, all the other SmackDown games. But the graphics weren't great. And to me, I'm more of an arcade style game. I like Retrofest. I like the new game they came out with that's similar to Retrofest, whatever that is.
Grounds?
Oh, it's like WrestleFest. I think it's called Retrofest. The old one's called WrestleFest. So it's the same style as WrestleFest.
I loved WrestleFest.
I love those types of games. I love the old Super Nintendo one, the Royal Rumble game, the WrestleMania game, the arcade style games for me. And that's not for everybody. That's just my generation. I know people want realism in their video games, but I don't need to see the sweat dripping off John Cena's head. To me, I want the video games to be fun to play, and I want it to be gathering 4 or 5 people and make it like a tournament. I never got that from the 2K games. And I know a lot of people love creating arenas and all that. I'm just pumped that they're having THQ involved in this. And man, I'm pumped for this. I'm definitely going to pre-order this game.
Oh, I can't wait to get this game. I'm pumped for it too. Listen, more wrestling games, the better. And you know what? It'll be just like AEW and WWE. Maybe the publishers are challenging each other to up their game each year.
Yeah, and I think people that are clamoring for the same graphics as WWE. I mean, look at the creator arenas and the creative guys. Just play your AEW guys on that. If you want WWE 2K22, play your AEW guys there. Let's get an arcade game going.
And if you remember, some of the early renders of the video clips they show from this game were amazing. So I don't know. Let's wait and see. Let's one trailer doesn't mean we don't know what system they were showing that trailer from. And the commercial, did you see the commercial with Britt and Tony Schiavone?
I did, yeah.
That was hysterical. I hope there's a part 2 where Adam Cole walks in.
The idea of these video games, I wanted to bring people together and you want to play over and over again. I don't get the same feeling from the WWE games, and that just might be my age showing. Again, don't need the graphics to be perfect. I want it just to be fun and serviceable. Let's just have an arcade game. That's why I love, like I mentioned, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania from Super Nintendo. Go back to WrestleFest 1991. That's mint to me. It's perfect.
The last 2K22 game was a lot of fun. Much improved over the last few. Yeah.
No doubt. And some of the customization that people are able to make, man, I'm so impressed with seeing the AEW arena that's been made. And some of that, they've made trailers on YouTube. It's been tricking me. I'm like, oh, the graphics look sick. Oh, it's just someone created an arena and Kenny Omega and Darby Allin in WWE 2K22. Oh, cool.
Yep.
All right. So again, speaking of that, we got some good comments in here from the dude from Thing. Thank you guys for chatting here. Thanks for hanging with us. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the Tavern. We got a lot more shows here on the docket. If you're here, thank you for coming on Twitch, by the way. We do need the love there.
And I do agree with this dude from That Thing, aka Mike Belcaster. I bet it's going to be fun as shit because Kenny Omega was hands-on with it, which is true.
100%. And I think, Kenny Omega, he wears shirts. He's a big video game guy. So, his hands are on it. It's going to be something fun.
I picked up 2K22 last night and started playing it again. I haven't played it in, I don't, it sucks being an adult. I don't get time to play as much as I would like to. But I picked it up last night and it was just a bunch of fun again.
I think back of the Chick Foley show, shout out to them. Members of the Pod Foundation did an episode about old video games.
Yeah.
They spoke specifically about the WCW games and also I think it was WWF No Mercy they talked about, right?
Yeah. On Pod Warriors. Great podcast, guys. Check it out. It's in the Chick Foley feed. Go to wherever you get your podcasts and you'll find it.
All right. So moving right along in the newsletter, we have a couple more things to talk about. And we mentioned Kenny Omega. He's behind the scenes of this video game, but there's an impending return. We thought maybe we'd get it tonight. Spoiler alert, we did not. But Kenny Omega seemingly doing social media angles with Will Ospreay to build something, whether it be in New Japan or AEW. So just put some context in this, Tom. Ospreay used the One-Winged Angel to beat Mad Kurt in a match in the UK several weeks ago and called himself the new Best Bout Machine. He claimed he got a cease and desist for it and then cut a promo about how at 29, Omega had been All Japan World Junior Champion and had an all-time classic match with Kota Ibushi at Budokan. But his accomplishments aren't close to what he's done thus far in his career. So they're building this storyline up. Do you think we get a payoff similar to what we got with FTR and the Briscoes?
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. It's coming. I don't know if they'll build it up for a year till the next Forbidden Door, which fine by me. Let that slow build burn. Let them take shots at each other over the next 10 months until we get to Forbidden Door again. But yeah, we're getting a payoff. It's going to be, they're working together. Okay, we're just going crazy here. StreamYard.
We're moving all over the place. We got close-ups on our face. We keep moving spots.
But yeah, it's going to be fun. I can't wait to see the payoff after seeing Ospreay for the first time a couple months ago.
Do you think this would be happening in an AEW ring, or do you think it's going to be happening in New Japan? Because obviously Will Ospreay, it's partial to New Japan, but maybe this is, in my opinion, the return favor for a lot of the jobs that were done at Forbidden Door in Japan's favor, or in AEW's favor from Japan.
Well, I mean, rumor has it Forbidden Door 2 will be in Japan, so
you think they wait a full year for this match?
Why not? Give it that build. Give it that slow burn, baby.
Yeah, I'd be completely into that. I mean, the thing with Kenny Omega is at this point, he's been out since November and I'm really missing him. And the way, and we'll talk about the segment that happened tonight and building towards those trios titles. It seemed like a shoo-in that he'd be involved in the trios, but I'm not so sure anymore about exactly the angle they're going with. And we'll talk more about that as we get to our top 3 moments.
Yes.
All right. So here, just to give you guys a little bit of the update of the AEW All-Atlantic Championship. Pac defeated Connor Mills at Rev Pro in United Kingdom and retained the title. He also teased the match with Kip Sabian. So great match. If you guys didn't check it out, they aired it on Dark Tuesday night. Pac hit a top rope suplex and followed it up with the Black Arrow for the win. During the match, Pac had Mills in a great position. At this point, dragging him around ringside area while continuing to beat him down. At a later point, Pac got distracted with a man with a box on his head. As we all know, it's Kip Sabian. And this would allow Mills to gain some composure and nail Pac with a wonderful lariat for a really close near fall. So they were face to face. Are you at any point interested? I know that the Chads were saying on Instagram and also on the flagship that they're interested in this Kip Sabian slow burn. Do you have any interest in this stuff, or is it just sort of there?
No, I mean, come on, let's get something with it already. He's been in with the box on his head for almost 2 years now.
Right.
It's like insane. Let's just move it. Let's let it come to something now. Like finally, I saw Pac going face to face with him there. I'm like, finally, we're gonna get something, and I want to see what this is. I want to see where it's gonna be. So, yeah, I'm interested in it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with the All-Atlantic Championship, my only complaint, I do like that they're defending it across different platforms and going to Rev Pro and also going to the Ireland promotion. It's escaping me right now. But the fact that they're defending in different promotions, that's awesome. And I love they're using Dark to showcase that. But I do want Pac on Dynamite with this championship because it is an AEW championship and he has not been on there since he won the title. And to me,
That's sad.
That's not what you want.
No. How the guy, like, you should celebrate your champions. You got to put them on TV more than this. Like, we finally saw Wardlow again tonight. I guess he was on Rampage. I didn't see Rampage this past
He
week.
was on Rampage, yeah.
Like he was on Rampage, so it's finally like he wins the belt and he disappeared from TV. Finally, we're getting him now. We got Battle of the Belts next week. Come on, let's go. Let's put him on TV. Let's get these championships meaning something. In about 1 minute, WWE made the U.S. title relevant again and felt special in Raw. Let's do that with these titles in AEW. Come on.
I mean, what WWE has in their favor, they have the quick turnaround because of the fact the United States title has like 80 years of history. They are able to go back in WCW and you start showing clips of Booker T and Dusty Rhodes and Lex Luger. It feels important. TNT title has a short history, so they really have to do a lot of rely on the booking to make it feel important.
Agreed, but how do you start getting these moments if you don't show them on TV?
Oh, completely agree with you. And I mean, you can go back to the Darby Allin reign, the Miro reign. There's a lot of good moments in there. Sammy winning the title.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't even believe the TNT title was defended at the pay-per-view. The last was it Double or Nothing that just happened?
Because he was involved in the tag match because Scorpio was involved in the tag match. Yeah.
So got to get these titles in some meaningful spots, guys. Come on.
Well, Tom, as usual, the utmost professional. You're leading me right into the next part, and we have updated cards for the next 3 events. So let's start with AEW Rampage, which will be airing Friday. Probably filming right now. There are probably an hour left in Rampage filming. So we have 3 matches announced. We have the Interim World Championship Eliminator, Jon Moxley taking on Mance Warner. We also have Madison Rayne debuting, probably in a squash match. And the main event, Friday Night Street Fight, Swerve in Our Glory versus Tony Nese and Josh Woods. Actually, they're probably going to main event Jon Moxley and Mance Warner, but they have been opening with these eliminators to get the crowd hot. But, in a Rampage, who knows? The crowd's been there for quite some time.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Tony Khan was on Busted Open today, and he's like, when he was asked about Madison Rayne wrestling, he sounded like, it would happen eventually. Didn't sound like he knew when it was going to be, and now all of a sudden here it is Friday night.
So you mentioned the TNT Championship, and it will be defended on 8/6 at Battle of the Belts 3. So it might be being filmed tonight. I'm not exactly sure when it's being filmed. So. It's going to be filmed on it might be live also. I don't know how they've been formatting it.
Pretty sure it's being filmed on Friday.
All right.
Yeah, Rampage is who's this person? Tim Noah. Rampage will be live this week, and then Battle of the Belts is going to be.
Thank you, Tim Noah. You're the best.
I knew that.
So live, we will see the 3 matches. We have the Ring of Honor World Championship on the line. Claudio Castanoli versus Takeshita, who we thought was going to be in Japan, but guess what? He's back. Money talks. He's back in America. We have the AEW Women's World Championship, Thunder Rosa taking on Jamie Hayter. And we have the TNT Championship. Good match here. Wardlow versus Jay Lethal. Do you see any title changes happen at Battle of the Belts 3, Tom?
Nope.
I think Jamie Hayter could take the women's title from Thunder.
I would love it, but I don't think it's happening.
I know Jay Lethal's not winning.
Nope.
And Claudio's not losing either. So
nope. Yeah.
I can see the women's title changing hands there.
Rampage sounds more exciting to me because it's live. These Battle of the Belts, we gotta get them live. We gotta get them feeling special. Like a pre-tape thing just doesn't have that same feeling. Like Rampage, a lot of weeks I could skip it, but when it's live, I can't wait to see it.
And finally, I'm sorry, you can finish.
Something about live wrestling makes me want to tune in more than knowing it's a pre-tape.
100%. I mean, Rampage gets me to watch. I mean, it could air in the same time slot. I don't care. I will watch it when it's live.
But it feels different. 100%.
It does. I mean, Rampage, if I'm being honest, was really lackluster this week on Friday. I did watch it. It felt like an AEW. Dark was more exciting.
Wow.
So, and then finally, just to kind of round off the news here, as always, AEW Dynamite next week will be the special from Minneapolis called Quake at the Lake. We have a couple of good matches here, 4 of them to be exact. The Coffin match, Darby Allin and Brody King, which has had stellar build to the fact Brody King got RIP, or Here Lies Darby Allin tattooed on him. I mean, that's kayfabe, brother.
Yeah.
The Tornado Tag match, the Lucha Brothers versus Rush and Andrade. That should be a killer match. We have Jade Cargill having an open challenge for her TBS championship.
Very interesting.
And in the main event, AEW World Championship, Jon Moxley versus the Lionheart, Chris Jericho making his return. Music and all, I think we might see the yellow tights.
Yeah.
This is going to be an awesome nostalgia trip for everybody that has been following Jericho since the beginning of his career.
It's going to be great.
Any chance at title changes? You think that Moxley has a chance to lose the title here?
So if I was a line maker, let's talk sports lines.
Let's talk them.
That's how I'm gonna do it. That's gonna be my new thing. I'm putting Moxley at like a minus 180 and Jericho at like a plus 135.
So you're saying it's almost? I mean, listen, that's a toss up. That's a toss up if I've ever heard one.
Well, I mean, Mox is still favored, but I'm not ruling Jericho out.
This is not John Moxley versus Roosh. This is a chance that Chris Jericho is built into the plans, and the route that they're going was not the intended plan. Obviously, CM Punk was champion, so anywhere they go, a lot of these decisions could be left with knee-jerk decisions. You're not guaranteed to get Moxley versus CM Punk. They could go Chris Jericho versus CM Punk when the time comes.
100%.
Who knows? Maybe they want people tuning in to Dynamite. When you have a world title change, the last time that happened, obviously, Kenny Omega took the title from Moxley.
Yeah.
Maybe Moxley defending on Dynamite's not a good thing for him, brother.
Let's see what's going to happen.
All right. That's the news I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And I appreciate everybody else except Eric Bischoff talking shit on our boys in AEW.
All right, so now let's get into our top three. Here we go.
Listen. Yo.
All right, Ace. Let's start off with your number 3 moment of the night.
My number 3 moment of the night was the opening match of Dynamite, Jay Lethal versus Orange Cassidy. This was a really good match, and I thought it did a really good job of setting up Jay Lethal as a legitimate contender for the TV title. And I just hate to see Orange in the position to lose. But Jay Lethal, I mean, they're two guys I do enjoy. I thought Jay Lethal needed a big win coming off that loss to Samoa Joe. And they need to really rebuild him back up to make him look like a legitimate threat to Wardlow's championship. A really good match. Set the pace for Dynamite. And I always love when they come out swinging like that.
Yeah. My number 3, I'm going to go with, I'm going with a honorable mention. Love the Acclaimed rap tonight. That was
Oh, so good.
We got a Vince McMahon name drop on Dynamite.
Yep, and a Joe Biden name drop too. Not often you hear the President of the United States and also Vince McMahon in the same rap, but they did it. They tied it together.
Great friggin' rap tonight by the Acclaimed. My number 3 tonight is should I have to go back and look at the Ricky Starks running on Hobbs. I like where they're going with this. It feels like they're building to something at the pay-per-view. It's going to be a big match. I like the build that it's getting. Love Ricky Starks. Nice to see Hobbs going out on his own too and see what he can do as a singles guy. Fun times, loved it. Excited to see them work this program together. Two guys finally getting into a long-term story, even if it's just due to pay-per-view, but it's longer than any story they've been in before. So
what about Hobbs getting that top guy treatment during his entrance? He looked like 1,000% more main event level than he did ever. He looked like an absolute star. It was awesome.
I'm here for it. I can't wait to see the Hobbs versus Wardlow build eventually.
That'd be great.
I mean, if they do it right, that could be something that just carries on for years. Start it with the TNT title, and maybe eventually one day they're fighting for the AEW championship. Kind of like The Rock and Stone Cold. They started for the Intercontinental, worked their way up the card to the WWE championship. See the same thing happening here.
Yeah, Hobbs, there's something about him. I love his story, where he started from. We started seeing him appear on AEW Dark, and he was this chubbier, out of shape, and I think he'd admit that himself, and he really carved himself up into be this specimen that he looks like a main eventer.
He does.
Dude, Team Taz has done wonders for him, and then Taz is in his ear giving him pointers. He's come such a long way. He's able to find the camera, too, and when he hit the Oklahoma Stampede for the finish, and then he hit the blindside lariat, his offense looks so believable that he looks like he's going to kill somebody. That clothesline he hit with Ricky Starks, when he turned on him, you felt it because Ricky Starks was recovering from the broken neck. Man, everything looks so stiff. And I think all of the guys from that generation, like the Bryan Danielsons and the Chris Jericho, they'd be very proud of the offense that Hobbs puts out there because it looks snug. I mean, looks snug and stiff.
Yeah, it does. It's great.
Tyson brings up a good point here before we move on. So do you think Team Taz is officially done, or is that, are they going to maybe rebrand and have somebody else with Hobbs?
To me, it seems like they're officially done, and you know what? I'm ready for them to be done and move on. I've got zero problems with it.
That's fair.
What do you think?
Hook goes off on his own. Hobbs goes off on his own. Yeah, I think it's done too. I could see just Taz I mean, he wasn't happy with Hobbs either. On commentary, he did say, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Have Taz just manage his son, Hook, and have Hobbs go off on his own. Like you said, I don't think he needs anybody with him anymore. I think that you take off the chains and let him go to work and let him just blossom, because I think he's ready. And I think the TNT, I would love to build a slow build towards wrestling Wardlow would be huge for me. I would love to see the two of them have a long-term feud, not just this quick one-off. I want to see a long-term feud where maybe Hobbs would be the guy who could finally beat Wardlow as this unstoppable monster. It'd be awesome.
I agree. And you know, it's kind of curious if Team Taz is really done and there's nobody else in Team Taz to pass off the FTW title to. What's going to happen with it?
You might have to retire it at this point. I mean, Taz is essentially, I mean, what? It was only Sabu and Taz held it in ECW. So let Hook just, I guess, carry it out as this like prop. To me, it's meant nothing really. And I was excited when they debuted it, but it's fallen flat in my opinion, because in ECW, when they booked it, as you know, it was the equivalent to the World Championship, and it's been anything but. I mean, it doesn't even feel like a mid-card title. It feels less than the European title did in its worst years.
Yeah.
So the FTW title in ECW at its best was equivalent to the World Championship. When it was defended, it was main eventing ECW shows.
I agree.
And we're not even close to there. Not that I want it to be there at all, but the whole idea, just get rid of it at this point.
I'm with you 100%.
All right. My number 2 was the main event. So I went for the opening match, and then my main event is my second match and moment. It's Yuta versus Chris Jericho. And again, even in a losing effort, somehow Yuta always looks strong. He's coming off some big wins. Jericho showing signs of the Lionheart. I love that he put in the Lion Tamer for the submission victory. Not just the walls of Jericho. He leaned back like the old school Lion Tamer.
Yep.
I also love that Yuta used the Regal stretch. That was awesome as well. Jericho used the code breaker, if you notice. He also went for the Judas effect. There was a lot of hints to Jericho's history and also a lot of nods to William Regal, Wheeler Yuta. The slaps were really stiff. Yuta's come such a long way as well. I think this match was really, really good. And even in a losing effort, Wheeler Yuta still looked like a star, and that says a lot about the booking.
Yeah. My number 2, same exact thing. Loved it with Mox coming out at the end. Thought it was a perfect build up for next week's show to build that. We now know Mox is getting the Lion Tamer, so it's going to be a good. It was a great match. I love Wheeler Yuta. I love everything he does. I love him going right after Jericho's nose. Them playing into that, like he's learned. You can tell he's learning from Regal and the other guys in Blackpool Combat Club. And what a spot! Like what a group! It's so much fun. And eventually, when this whole thing blows up and they all start fighting each other again, it's going to be even better than what we're seeing now.
I think the best thing about groups like this and throughout the history of wrestling, think about the 4 Horsemen in WCW. It does bore stars. Like you have stars, the Hart Foundation. It creates stars. And that's the goal of these factions. You don't want them just to have storylines in the moment. The younger guys, even think about on the other side of it, the Jericho Appreciation Society, what's been done for Daniel Garcia. I think both Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta, you can compare both of their rise. And the win that Wheeler got, or even the loss against Moxley, that was probably his crowning moment. Daniel Garcia's crowning moment was obviously last week, submitting or making Bryan Danielson tap out. But AEW's ability to really let these young guys shine, and you can really see the future. They're planting seeds all over the place. And I think we're going to have future main eventers all across the board. And I think a lot of the heat that people give AEW for relying on ex-WWE guys, that just shows me you're not watching the product, because although there are a lot of guys, the interim world champion, yes, ex-WWE guy, Chris Jericho, ex-WWE guy. But a lot of guys, in lieu of that, Bryan Danielson put over Daniel Garcia absolutely clean. I mean, aside from the Hager grabbing his leg, it doesn't get much better than that. I mean, Chris Jericho won the Undisputed Championship with a lot of interference from the NWO. No one talks about that. When it's all said and done, everyone will be talking about Daniel Garcia in that moment. And Bryan Danielson made a man, made a superstar, if you want to use it in WWE terms.
I mean, he's been so good, Daniel Garcia. He deserved it last week. I feel the same way about Yuta. They're so awesome. So I almost was shocked. I almost thought for a minute, did you think Yuta had a chance of winning tonight?
There's always the chance, because I thought that when you put Jericho in the main event there, obviously I would put the percentage, I was putting it 80-20, but that's to say 80% chance that Jericho wins 20 for Wheeler, because there's the built-in story with Wheeler versus Mox. And that's the beautiful part. You could have went different ways. And I guess that's the byproduct in a good way of the CM Punk injury, because you're getting all these weird side quests and storylines. And I think eventually we're going to get back to Punk with the title. But it sort of has made a lot of this other stuff really exciting because you don't know where they're going.
Yeah.
If you have this feud for CM Punk that's building towards a main match, he's not losing. But the fact that Chris Jericho, he feels like he should have been or could have been the interim championship. So interim champion going into All Out, it makes sense. I mean, why not? You could just do the rematch at All Out if Punk's not ready to come back.
That's it. I agree.
All right, so let's move to the number one before we move to our match of the week. Mine is number one moment had to be Hangman making the save for the Bucks. And this has been brewing for quite some time at this point. And obviously the trios championship event, and everyone says it's going to be Kenny Omega and the Bucks versus the Undisputed Elite, or whatever you want to call them, Undisputed Era. It's Adam Cole, O'Reilly, and Fish. But they kind of pulled a swerve on us here where Hangman is returning, and now they're planting the seeds for maybe Hangman taking the spot in the trios tournament. And these guys, former 6-man champions in Ring of Honor, so they have a history of teaming together. I do love them teaming together, because if they do this, we get a face Young Buck tandem, face Hangman. You get a bitter Kenny Omega coming back, where he'll get the initial pop. People will be excited for him, but you could turn him back heel. Like, that's what we want him. So he's going to be like, dude,
with Hangman
took my title and put me out, and you guys are teaming with him. You're champions with him. What the hell is going on? It's built-in story. Don Callis, promo gold. It's going to be awesome. In the moment too, it's emotional. I feel invested in these characters, like Hangman, how far he's come and the relationship deteriorating. It felt like a group of friends finally back together. They're able to bury the hatchet. It was a cool moment.
I was there for it. Spoiler alert, this was my number one also.
Hell yeah.
We
are in sync.
With the Undisputed Elite tonight, it was great. And then seeing Hangman come back, and I thought the same thing. This sets up a perfect Kenny Omega return to come back, be mad at his friends. He goes heel. They could be face. Hopefully the Young Bucks don't go back to being the hokey crap they were before they turned heel. I couldn't stand them before they went heel. I used to watch AEW in the beginning and think, what does anybody see in these guys? As soon as they turned heel, loved them. I'm like, okay, these guys are awesome. So I'd like them to be face with an edge. They don't need to go back to as hokey as they were before.
Yeah, we don't need 1993 rockers, 1992 rockers. What
100%.
we could use is the Young Bucks in these like colorful outfits, the rompers, all that stuff as a face. Make them sort of the anti-hero. And teaming them with Hangman, who also is an anti-hero. He's not playing by that face book. He's always bordering on the line there. Man, the storyline built in there. And the Bucks are going to be torn no matter how you do this. The Bucks were torn originally when they went with Kenny Omega, when he won the title. They're going to have a decision to make. And maybe, just maybe, eventually they go back heel. But I want to see a face run where they have this edge to them, like you mentioned, because we haven't seen that. We saw this like very cookie cutter face run from Kenny Omega, cookie cutter tag team run from the Young Bucks. We haven't got the interesting Young Bucks with the beards, the rompers and stuff as a face. And I think it can be done.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Omega comes back. You guys didn't call me for the trio titles. You didn't think of me. Well, we were hurt. You didn't know you were when you were coming back. You could have called me, guys. I have a phone number. You know my number. You didn't. It's so much potential. It continues the Omega and Hangman feud. Like, beautiful storytelling here.
The only thing that they kind of let go was eventually him. Maybe he's just not ready to come back yet, but him coming back and Adam Cole assuming leadership of the Elite. And I think that was kind of stunted by the fact that Cole was hurt as well with the torn labrum and the concussion. So if you had Adam Cole as the leader, him coming back and trying to vie for power, that was eventually going to be the struggle. But I think they're going in a different route. And as long as we get a heel Kenny Omega, I'm okay with that. I mean, obviously everyone's going to be pumped he's there, but give him the stick. He's going to be out there and he's going to cut a promo. He'll rip on people. And, we're back to the races. You get a heel Omega. Everyone does their job, boos him, but we all love to see him.
Yep. All right. So we ready for our match of the week?
Let's do it.
It's time for the main event.
All right. I'm going to drop my match of the week on you first. It's gonna shock the shit out of you, I think.
I don't know if you will, because mine's kind of shocking too.
Really? Okay, I'm gonna go Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa.
Color me shocked. I actually am shocked.
I thought it was a well done match. I enjoyed that match. So I'm going with the women's tag team match tonight for my match of the week. What did you think of the match?
I thought it was a good match. I always think of you now when I see them tagging together, because I'm like, they're setting the stage for these tag titles, and Tom's correct. I don't think they're actually going to do the tag titles.
Listen to the flagship show last week. They said, I hope there's not. And I'm thinking, guys, I hope you listened to me in a wrap up. I predicted this a couple of months ago. The next set of titles we're seeing introduced in AEW, women's tag team titles. I don't want to see it. Don't think I'm here for it. I'm not rallying for it. It's the last thing I want, but I just see the writing on the wall.
Well, side note and completely separate thing, but it has to do with the women's division. New Japan Pro Wrestling is introducing a women's world championship for the first time in their history. They usually have the Stardom champion kind of participate in New Japan events, but they're going to have their own women's championship, and that might play a part in the next Forbidden Door, and maybe some AEW talent will hold it. So allegedly they want it to be a very cross-promotional championship belt that gets defended all over the place. So I am happy to hear that. We've been talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling for quite some time here on the wrap-up. Having a women's title means a lot.
Maybe that's what these tag team matches are leading to then. Maybe it's not AEW coming up with their own, which I hope not. But and that'd be cooler than AEW coming up with their own.
My only issue with this is Thunder Rosa's the champion. Why is she involved in tag matches? Have her building towards main feuds. And that's why I think it's possible Jamie Hayter takes the title off her. And again, you have Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter teaming together, so it's kind of stuck in that mess. But take it out of, if you want Thunderstorm teaming together, get the title off Thunder Rosa. And little side note here, first time ever Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter ever teamed up, ever.
Yeah.
In the ring. Dark, Rampage, nothing. They've never teamed together. They've been together for what, 2-3 years now?
Yeah. And I will say this, and I'll have to preface it, and I hate to say it, but seeing Thunder Rosa teaming with Toni Storm now is very Vince McMahon WWE booking.
I mean, their women's division has left a lot to be desired. The booking, aside from the Britt Baker and the Thunder Rosa feud that built up to the cage match, the wonderful moment they had in the cage, it's been absolutely just not great since Britt lost the title. And it seems like, I don't know if it's just talent driven, because they're only given the opportunity they're given. And then obviously you can't build reverence for a champion cutting promos of Tony Schiavone in the back every week. It's just not possible.
I think there's only one person to blame for cutting bad top of the ram promos, and that's Thunder Rosa.
I agree, but if she's only, so the build she has as champion is right now. So think about the world champion. If he's only in tag matches, how are you going to feel about him? He feels minimal, and she feels minimal as a world. She's a world champion teaming in, and it was a good match. Don't get me wrong. A very good match with 4 very talented women wrestlers, but she's the champion.
I agree. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you at all here. I agree with everything you're saying, but it's, listen, let's not even just blame it on Thunder Rosa, but all the champions are not booked properly. Like, you know, it's like a repetitive problem in AEW with their champions.
All maybe right now, we talk about the reigns all now. Not
well,
in the history.
The only one that's been decent is Mox. He's been on TV week after week defending the title, so
true.
He's done a good job. So I'm not going to criticize that. But we haven't seen Pac since he won that title at the pay-per-view at the Forbidden Door. Wardlow just returned Friday because he has to set up a match for a Battle at the Belts. If Battle of the Belts isn't coming up, we may not even be seeing him. It's like, let's use these champions as champions. Let's get these belts on TV, guys. Let's use these to drive good storylines.
Yeah, I can't argue with you there, especially as the champions now. I think historically AEW's done a good job of building their storylines around championships, but for right now, going through them, I think they've done a really good job with the AEW World Championship. But for the rest of the championships, you're right. I think it's kind of stop and go. There's really no fluid story that's going on for all these, like the TNT title. The culmination of him winning the title was great. It kind of stopped that Scorpio Sky, Sammy Guevara bullshit that was flooding that and ruining it. But now that he has a title, I think we need to have a full story, and maybe the story eventually is Hobbs. Maybe that's where they go and they can kind of fix it. But I don't think the long-term story is lethal either. That's why it's kind of stop and go.
No, that's just, hey, shit, we have Battle of the Belts coming up in a week. What are we going to do? Oh, let's put Jay Lethal in a quick program with him.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
No, I mean, it's a good point. And
It's
I
the
even
same
think
thing they did with the first Battle of the Belts when all of a sudden Cody was champion, TNT champion, and then he got COVID. So it's like, oh, quick, for 2 weeks they had to put an interim championship in because they have the Battle of the Belts coming up. And I don't think we ever would have seen an interim belt there if it wasn't for the fact that they had a Battle of the Belts happening right at that time.
it was a true love story from that moment. Interim championship became their favorite term. It just from that moment.
Listen, let's look at it this way though. If they don't rush that, put that interim championship in at that point, I think it means more when they do it for the world championship.
Yeah, but maybe they never come up with the idea. Maybe they just strip him of the title.
I have a feeling that was sitting in the back of Tony Khan's head for when he needed it.
Yeah, he loves the UFC style of logic that they have with the champion. The champion has to lose. He can't be stripped or whatever.
And listen, I also love the fact that the last 2 weeks, Mox and Jericho, like, forget it. It's not interim championship. We're the champion.
Yeah.
I love the fact that they've come out and said that to kind of add to the belt because, you know what, right now it is the championship.
The only reason I'm okay with it is because the payoff we will get where the two champions walk in for the big fight feel. I think back to Rey Mysterio when he won the WWE championship and then CM Punk came back like, no, I'm the goddamn champion. They had their match, unified the titles. And then same thing with the IC titles with Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon.
Yeah.
He shows up with the title and says, I'm the real champion. I think for the moment, you see both the guys staring face to face with the championships in hand. That's going to be a moment that lives forever, whether it's Moxley or Jericho versus Punk. That's going to be a huge, huge moment. Yeah. Big fight feel, and you're going to create an atmosphere.
And again, it feels a little more special to me if they didn't do it with the TNT title when Cody had COVID.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point, especially because it's, Dustin versus Sammy. It just feels, and Sammy's wearing both titles, and what's the real one?
Yes, exactly.
I don't know.
And then you have, actually, where's Dan Lambert been? He, we didn't even touch on that tonight, but happy to see Ethan Page out there tonight complaining he doesn't have an action figure. Popped for that because I've been complaining I haven't had an Ethan Page action figure, but and complaining about his story. I'm glad to see maybe he's away from Scorpio Sky. Let's see what this guy could do on his own. Let's give him a push. And you know what? He looks like he might be going with Stokely Hathaway. Let's go.
Yeah, Stokely Hathaway is quickly becoming one of my favorite managers in all of wrestling. I mean, WWE beyond, and even AEW. Like, he's just money on the microphone. He has that very old school manager feel where it's not about him, it's about his client.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good thing to do where he's out there as a business model.
Yeah.
Similar to the Paul Heyman vibe where Paul Heyman has clients. This feels similar to that.
Yeah.
But I love Stokely. I think he's done a great job. And I know there was some hesitation about putting with Jade and taking Mark Sterling away, but I think he's blown what Mark Sterling did out of the park. I mean, he's the perfect match for Jade and that crew.
I agree. He's perfect for. I love Sterling and what he does as a manager too. For Neeson, he was fun when he was with Jade too. He was fine, but like Stokely has just done a really good job too. So it's kind of cool, and I want to see what they do with Ethan Page. This guy needs a push. I think this guy is beyond talented. He's one of my favorite guys in AEW, so I'm excited when I saw what happened tonight. Should have had that on my slept.
I was fully expecting him to shout out Fig Night with the figures. Like, I want to be on Fig Night, damn it.
That's right. That's what he should have done. I need to call the OG Fig Kid. Maybe he could get me a figure.
He's a friend of the pod. I mean, he does. It means friend of the pod. We do love him here on the Tavern, and he's a talented dude. And I think he's proven when he's not involved in silly shit, he can make it work. I mean, he's even made that stuff work with Dan Lambert. It's just he needs the opportunity to be on anything else but Rampage. He needs to be on TV weekly for people to care about him.
He's got the tightest tits in the business. So,
yep.
So what's your match of the week, Ace?
My match of the week, and I thought you were going to say the same one because you thought it was a surprise. It was the dumpster match with the Acclaimed and the Gun Club. And you know me, I love nostalgia. This match had all the feels of that 1998 WrestleMania 14 dumpster match between the New Age Outlaws. You got Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie. This was, I mean, there was a lot of spots that paid homage to that feud, and it wasn't just in the match, the build up to WrestleMania 14 on the Go Home show. You had the New Age Outlaws tossing Foley and Funk off of the stage in the dumpster, and at the time JR was very passionate saying there are people in there. I thought for sure he probably should have said the same thing, but JR probably doesn't remember it happened in 1998. 24 years later, you have the Acclaim doing the same thing, and Billy Gunn credits that moment in a lot of interviews as the moment that the New Age Outlaws transcended just being a team put together. They became the eventual tag team champions. And, for me, I grew up with them being, world champion aside, they were must-see TV, coming out and interacting with the crowd. And I think you've been the one saying the Acclaim remind you of the New Age Outlaws. So it's kind of this weird serendipity that has existed here. The kids of Billy Gunn are being tossed off the stage. The Acclaimed, who you're claiming are similar to the New Age Outlaws with the crowd interaction. This might be their moment. And I know I saw some of the chat murmuring, and I agree. The Acclaimed and the Guns should be wrestling over the tag titles. Like they feel, and I know at the end of the day, titles or not, moments are going to exist, but it feels like these two teams should be having something on the line, because I care more about this than I care about Swerve and Our Glory. And that shouldn't be the case. This feud feels, though it was born out of silliness with the scissoring and all that. I mean, even when you had Billy Gunn turn on Bowens, there was some emotion in that, even though it was silly. These guys are doing a wonderful job, and I have thought it has done wonders for both teams. The Guns have felt more important. They're improving on a weekly basis. And Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, I mean, awesome work. I mean, it's just, I love this match. It was full of all the gaga, all the bullshit you'd expect from this type of match. And, a dumpster match is kind of silly in theory, if you really think about it. Similar to a casket match, you got to throw them in the dumpster and then to close the lid. So there's a lot of silliness that goes into a match inherently because of the way the match is formatted. I thought they did a really good job of this. We saw Max Caster dropping the mic drop off the top of the Dynamite stage. That was an awesome spot. That's going to live forever. I'm very partial to Max Caster, Long Island guy, Creative Pro guy. I love this match. I can't say enough good things about it because it did its job. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain matches that try to be something that it's not. These guys understood their role on the card, and it was just absolute entertainment, and they got the crowd to stay with them the whole way. I mean, the rap after being attacked, the whole thing, man, it was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, do I think it was the best match I've ever seen? Hell no.
Absolutely not. No.
But it was fun, and I'm there for the fun. And
yeah, not every match has to be Bryan Danielson and Takeshita, putting the little bell lock and locking people up and side headlocks. I love matches like this when they fit on the card,
We have two young teams that we're going to be seeing having matches for tag team championships down the road for a long, long time, I think. So I'm here for it.
So, Tom, on my Instagram, I put the side-by-side videos of both moments happening. So you guys, if you want to check that out and see the New Age Outlaws moment when they did that in 1998, check it out. But you guys will YouTube and watch the full segment, watch the full match, WrestleMania 14 on Peacock, all that good stuff. But do you think, for people that watch this, do you think that they didn't just pay homage to it, they completely did the exact same thing? Do you think there's harm in that, Tom, or do you think it still has the importance? Because for me, I look at it as it's not going to be the same meaningful moment, but for someone that's never seen the New Age Outlaws moment, maybe that holds the same level of weight for a new fan.
I'll tell you what I'm going to say here, and I was holding back off of saying this to not be too nitpicky, but I'm going to be a little nitpicky.
Do it.
I'm tired of AEW doing little spots stolen directly from WWE. Whether it was they did it with the champagne truck they brought in with
yes.
Yeah, like create your own moments, guys. It's time to create your own moments. You don't have to keep living off a history that's not, and I hate when WWE goes back on their own history and does it. So I hate to see another company going back and doing the same thing. Now it's probably a little nitpicky for me to say that, but it's just I watch it and I'm thinking, can't you be a little more original?
I agree with you there, but and I figured you would say this. The same thought popped in my head, but I thought it was subtle enough where unless you're a diehard fan, you had no idea this happened.
I mean, I think anybody who's old enough that watched back then remembers it. I mean, I know there's a lot of younger people who didn't see it, but I know when I was a kid watching wrestling, there was nothing. I mean, not that I know of anyway. There weren't these big spots that were stolen from something in the past.
I think it's hard to do anything new, and you're right, but I think it's hard to do anything new in wrestling. I think when we watched it for the first time, it probably happened elsewhere. I think, you have people ripping off from bookers and promotions in the past, and a lot of shit that happened in WWF ripped off the territory days. And we talk about, WrestleMania was built on the backs of the guys like Junkyard Dog and all the shit that was happening in these promotions. Vince didn't build everything, but I agree with you. I think there's a fine line of paying respect and tapping into that nostalgia. We all love nostalgia, but you want them to create their moment. And I think AEW does, but you don't want to lean too heavy on it.
I feel like sometimes they do.
You know, what about also, this is why we're having a discussion, because I don't think I was on the wrap-up show for it. Were you okay with two things? The Darby Allin CM Punk match, pulling threads from Brett and 1-2-3 Kid, and also the match between Wardlow and Punk, where they did the whole Diesel and Bret Hart, was it Diesel Bret Hart? Yeah, Diesel Bret Hart finish, where they did like the shady finish. They pulled it spot for spot.
I don't love that stuff at all.
Did you catch it though in time though, or was it something it just kind of went over your head?
Like, I mean, don't remember the matches like that, but when I see it, I mean, no, I don't remember it, but like, I know I kind of go by what FTR said when they said people were criticizing them for taking spots from the Brett and Owen matches and all that stuff, and they said they didn't. It's just their style because they love them so much. So
I mean, dude, that was to the camera angle. They literally had the camera angle from WrestleMania 10. That was completely, and I loved it, but that was an exactly spot for spot how they opened that Owen Brett match at WrestleMania 10.
yeah, so they say it's not, but
I mean, well, we just watch the camera angles. You could put them. I think they put them side by side. I think someone did, yeah, it's like literally side by side, which was awesome. I loved it. I
mean, and I love the fact that Hangman Page came out during his feud with Punk, and he said, "Listen, we're not having another Bret Hart masturbatory match here." So,
yeah,
it's like, come on, and Punk is better than that. Stop.
No, and it surprised me with the Darby Allin thing, and maybe it was because it was Punk's first match. He wanted to lean on something that was a little more rhythmic, and I loved it because unless you knew and have seen that match, I didn't recognize it until after the fact. I can't say I recognized, but the Diesel spot with Wardlow, I immediately recognized. I'm like, I have to go back and figure out where this is from. And that was, it was the match with Diesel all the way back then with Bret Hart. And I was like, that's where it's from. But I think it's enough of the subtlety where, unless again, we're on a podcast for an hour and a half talking about wrestling. I don't think most people are catching that. Same thing with the dumpster spot. I think it's enough subtlety.
Well, the dumpster spot I picked up instantly.
Yeah.
There's certain things. The champagne truck, I picked up instantly. There's certain things you just pick up instantly. Little spots in the match are less noticeable, I think.
Yeah.
Until people dissect it. And again, like, why are you sitting at home dissecting it that deep anyway? Like, it's just kind of weird to me. I mean, do you agree or do you disagree?
Unless, I mean, for me, it's part of just understanding the mechanics and the mentality of going into a match. And I love breaking down matches like that. And I thought FTR would have completely owned the fact that I wouldn't say rip off, but they were inspired by the WrestleMania 10 match. And how could you not be? Yeah. That inspired a whole generation of fandom. Like when I first saw that match, I wanted more. Like I needed that. So if you're doing an Owen Hart tournament, why not pay homage to one of Owen's best matches against his brother and two tag partners? It's a beautiful thing. And so it's not something to be embarrassed about, but
I will say this, if there's a place to do it, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think again, it's a fine line. You don't want the whole thing to be this like tribute to old wrestling because you need to make room for new moments. And I think AEW has done a damn good job of creating new moments. Go all the way down the line for everything they've done. I mean, the stuff that they've done in 3 years, there's a lot of good memories in there that are not just based on the
for me. They've made so many of their own memories. They don't need to start leaning back on another company's moments to make memories.
I just thought it was too easy not to do it. The fact that the Guns were involved, it just felt so easy to do. Why not? I don't think there's a harm in it. I don't think it hurts the Acclaimed.
I don't think it hurts the Acclaimed. I don't think it hurts the wrestlers involved. It hurts the bookers involved.
But even though it's something, all right, so now I'm wrapping my brain around because I really didn't put that much thought into it before we got on here. So even if it's a moment that you may say, wow, that ripped it off, I think it still has more meaning and more historical reference than if they just had a random tag match where the Acclaim went over with a random mic drop. I felt it's going to live on highlight packages, whether people feel like it has the same impact for the New Age Outlaws as it does for the Acclaimed. It's always going to live in AEW packages because it's a memorable moment on Dynamite.
The mic drop was awesome.
Yeah, and good. I mean, that's a big boy coming off the top of the stage. That's not a small man.
No, it was not. So,
but yeah, I mean, I'm curious what you guys think. Make sure you put in the comment if you guys feel like they're doing too much of nostalgia and they're trying to tap into it, but they understand their core audience, which is going back to the conversation that they know who's watching. They know we're watching and we're catching up with this, and it feels like you're involved. But it goes back to the age-old conversation. Are they building storylines and assuming people have this background knowledge of Ring of Honor, New Japan, the Elite, what happened with Hangman and Adam Cole, and like Tyson mentioned in the chat, Adam Cole being killed by Kenny Omega and all this bullshit that went on behind the scenes? Do they lean too much on hardcore fans? And it feels like you're, and I heard Lance Storm on Fightful, not Fightful, F4W online. He does a podcast with Brian Alvarez, and it's a great listen. He had mentioned that sometimes because he only watches Dynamite, he feels tuned out and he doesn't understand. He feels left out of the storyline where, why is this happening? Why is Roosh getting a title shot? And sometimes there's no story behind it, but he feels like he's missing something. So I think there's something to be said, especially when a mind like Lance Storm recognizes it.
That's a great point, actually, because I kind of thought the same thing when I saw Roosh fighting Moxley last week. Not that it wasn't a great match. I'm not knocking the match, but it just came out of nowhere.
It is a good point by Rock'em Sock'em Wrestler. I love the name. I agree with Ace mostly because I'm a casual wrestling fan new to watching AEW, so it gives me a chance to watch old matches and see where all the current stuff has come from. Yeah, I mean, I think I understand like they want to shit on WWE, and Tony at the end of the day, he's a wrestling fan. I think when they do even small things, Tony has this textbook encyclopedia level of knowledge where he probably remembers dates and stuff. You hear him at these pressers where he's just rattling off knowledge and title reign history and matches where they happened in the arena and how the crowd was and what the temperature was. He is to the T. But I don't know. I'd like it because it makes me go back and really, wow, like history repeats itself, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. Influence is there for a lot of these wrestlers, and they're inspired by a generation. Like Billy Gunn was a guy wrestling when these guys were kids.
Yeah.
Like Max Caster, how old was he in 1998? I mean, do the math on that.
Yeah.
So,
maybe. What year was he born?
I don't know. I think Max Caster is probably, if I had to guess, 29. So yeah, he would be one. So
once. That's crazy.
So some of his moments, he might have saw, the one Billy Gunn. Maybe that was his first memory of wrestling. I don't know. Billy and Chuck.
I'm looking up Max Caster's age right now.
And Rock'em Sock'em has said, yeah, let's not forget Tony's a billionaire living out his nerdy dreams. And as OG Tom would say, I'm here for
Max
it.
Caster is older than we think.
He's 32.
33.
All right, he's the same age as me. He's in 1989 he was born?
Yep, he's born July 31st, 1989. He just turned 33.
Happy birthday, Max Caster.
Just a couple
best
days
wrestler
ago.
alive. That's what his Instagram handle is.
Oh, okay.
But you're right. I mean, Tony Khan is like, this is his, you want to talk about fig feds with wrestling figures or pictures, and this is him living it out with real people. So he's living his dream, and the storylines are sometimes going to pay tribute to what he grew up watching.
You want to see my impression of Tony Khan?
I want to. Are you going to hug something? No, you got to do a waist hug. You got to grab him from the waist and put your head real nice. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
So listen, hugs. Listen,
shout out to that. Go check out the last debate episode with the Extra Cooler boys. And
you know what the only difference between Vince McMahon and Tony Khan is with the hugs? Vince does it behind closed doors. He hugged his wrestlers. You've heard so many wrestlers state over the years, there's nothing like a Vince McMahon hug. So listen, I'll poke fun at Tony Khan and have fun with it, but damn it, I don't blame him at all. If I was in his position, I'd probably be doing the same exact thing.
I wouldn't be hugging him like that, though. I mean, there's certain types of hugs. Like the hug, you could see Dax and Cash felt uncomfortable during the Ring of Honor presser. They were like, and Dax is like, I'm sweaty and bloody. Don't touch me. And Cash was just standing there, and Claudio's face was bizarre as well. So
yeah.
Okada seemed into it, by the way. So Okada liked the hug.
Okada had no problem.
Okada likes hugs.
Yeah, what's wrong with a hug? Nothing's wrong with a hug.
There's certain way to hug people, and I think Tony might be trolling everybody now at this point. I got to go back and watch the original cringy hug that people talk about, because now I think he's just trolling. There's no way he's not trolling. He's all over the internet.
How does
he not know?
The first hug that really got me was when he hugged Claudio after.
Claudio looked uncomfortable, right?
Nothing. Not really.
Go back and watch Claudio's face. He's like,
I have it on my Instagram because I screen capped it right away and put threw it on my Instagram as I was watching it.
You should never hug a guy. Like, I don't know. Hugs are great, but you don't want to go around the waist. I don't know. That's like a little kid hugging somebody. So maybe Tony Khan, I don't know. Maybe it's a height thing.
Did I put it on my...
But I mean, I don't want to get too into the hug thing, but just to talk, hype it up while we are Yeah, he has him by the waist. I mean, that's the way you hug somebody, like when you're cuddling, or you haven't seen them in years.
The thing that cracks me up is Tony Khan's eyes closed.
He's lit. Oh man.
Look how close.
Oh my god. All right, so if you want more Tony Khan conversation, it's like WCW and WWF having the invasion angle more well done than they did in 2001. We have the extra cooler boys representing WWF.
Yes.
We have the two bad Chads representing WCW on the debate last Monday. What a great listen.
It was a great listen.
Absolutely. I love the extra cooler boys and the stuff they do, the nostalgia pieces they do, the SummerSlam episode, and also Bash of the Beach 97. Great job that they do on their end. Pod Foundation killing it.
The Extra Cooler show. I listen to it every week. Check out all the shows on a Pod Foundation. We mentioned Pod Warriors, Chick Foley, Coming Down the Aisle, and of course, a plethora of shows here at the Turnbuckle Tavern, guys. And if you want to find out all about our shows, there's a link right there. You can go to theturnbuckletavern.com. They're all listed there for you guys. And, you know, here's a clip, quick little screen of what you'll find there. Our Twitch, our TikTok, our Discord. Come join our Discord. Come have a watch along with us. When you're done with that, call the tavern and let us know what you think of the AEW wrap-up show. We'll play your call. You leave us a voicemail, they'll play it on a flagship show. So make sure you do it, guys. It was a fun night with you tonight, Ace.
Had a great time, man. We got all of our stuff in, some great conversations that similar to when CM Punk got hurt. We went down roads we didn't know we were going down. We're talking about New Age Outlaws. We're talking about nostalgia. And what else when we talk about nostalgia on the tavern? Friday night, we got Shot of Nostalgia coming up, 1996 WCW, 2 episodes of Nitro again. But following that, we got WrestleMania 4 before our time. Young Anthony, the Australian icon, Nick Storm joining us again. So you guys get 4 hours of nostalgia fix. Lock into the couch. Check out Flashback Friday here on the tavern. It's awesome stuff. Appreciate all the positive feedback, the comment, all that good stuff. We hear you. Just like Triple H hears you guys at SummerSlam about Seth Rollins' mystery opponent. We do hear you when you guys comment about your ideas. And stay tuned. Give you guys a little bit of a teaser here. Friday night, we will be announcing season 2 of Shot of Nostalgia, which we're a long way to go for there, but it's going to be November 2022. But we have the full schedule. I'm going to drop some graphics. You guys can check it out. So stay tuned. You do not want to miss it.
I know you don't want to miss it. And let me tell you guys, Friday morning, before you get to Flashback Friday, Sessions is going to drop. And we have a special episode this week. We have a roundtable featuring a couple of members from the Pod Foundation. We're going to get Seth on with us. We're going to get Matt from the Extra Cooler Show on us. We're doing a roundtable discussion of what WWE needs to do to continue to right this ship. It's going to be a really fun conversation.
Man, that sounds amazing. And obviously, anytime you have the Extra Cooler boys joining you anywhere, killing it. Roundtable can be a great discussion.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So check it out Friday morning, Turnbuckle Sessions in podcast form only, wherever you get your favorite podcast.
I'm also sorry that you lost the AEW, the Raw Down Championship, Tom.
No. Oh, I mean, yeah. I love those guys. That show is great, but
they crushed it. They crushed it yesterday, and I just listened to the pod forum. And they did a great job covering. And you know, the WWE product is getting better and better. But like I said in the comment, they have a long way to go if they want to keep up with how entertaining the Raw Down's been. Like the Raw and SmackDown may be entertaining, but Raw Down and the Turnbuckle Tavern, we've been covering that stuff and making that entertaining for. How many episodes deep are we at this point? They just crushed it. All those guys, Young Anthony, Marco, J-Bone, you when you're on there. I mean, the Raw Down is must-see TV. You can get all your WWE fix in that one spot.
I thought of a phenomenal episode we did last week. Last night's episode was phenomenal. And again, Sessions, you talked about what WWE needs to do to stay relevant. We're going to get some great minds, including Mike Belcaster, who is not by any means a guy who is a WWE fan. So I'm
curious to see his takes on it because he was shitting all over SummerSlam in the chat.
I'm curious to see what he's got to say too.
I was sports entertained, and Belcaster, I don't think he was not sports entertained.
Yeah, and listen, the first triple threat match on Raw this week, that ending, the the Styles clash,
dude, push Ciampa to the moon. You could feel the Triple H effect immediately.
Love Ciampa, but I love the ending just to that match. We saw something different.
It was awesome.
AJ Styles and that Styles clash on top of Ali, that was amazing. Never seen that before.
No, we go back weeks ago. I think it was SmackDown. There was 8 minutes total of in-ring action. I think we had, I don't know the total amount, but we definitely had majority of the night was
wrestling.
Great wrestling. There was a couple matches last night on Monday night that actually had, I mean, maybe tune in. I was watching with some meaning, and especially the U.S. title package. Like they immediately made it feel important. Like there was stakes on the line.
That U.S. title felt more important that night than it has in the history it's been in WWE.
And you have to, when you have a champion that's only there once a month, you need to have another title. And the U.S. title, the IC title, they're going to be so important to carry the brand. Triple H is like, dude, we have champions on that are here every week. Let's just make them feel important.
It made me care. It made me care about a title I had no interest in before.
Man, it just shows how quick wrestling can move when you book it correctly. And the U.S. title feels important just like that. Boom.
And listen, I'm here to see what the future holds with Triple H in charge, and it's going to be fun as we dissect it on Turnbuckle Sessions. One more plug for Sessions on Friday.
Hell yeah. Check it out. Sessions is always a great listen, guys. It's awesome.
Great, fun episode because, again, we have guys, Seth, he's more into AEW now, but again, he's a longtime WWE fan. Matt and me, both New York guys, WWE guys growing up in the Northeast. And then Mike from Chicago, bigger WCW fan. It's going to be a great discussion. It's going to be a great roundtable. Check it out. But I think
you guys have been building towards this for a bit now with the round table and getting everybody in the same room, because there's a lot of great minds here, and not only the Tavern, but the Pod Foundation. Some great different opinions, which is amazing. And then getting to the table and putting everybody's idea out there and mixing them up and, having a great discussion. That's the best part of this podcast format that we have here.
Yeah, and I think it's something we're going to start doing on Sessions on a regular basis. When there's
awesome.
For a roundtable discussion, I'm going to pick different people, bring them in, and see what we could do with it. And
like a longer form debate, but more of a roundtable discussion. Yeah, I like that.
So check it out, guys. I guess that's it. Anything else to plug, Ace?
That's it. I mean, we have the flagship dropping tomorrow morning. Make sure you guys check that out. The Two Bad Chad's working vigorously on it right now. We got a Call the Hawk segment. We got a Freems Fab 5. What else? I mean, Call the Tavern. Who knows who goddamn called the Tavern, left a voicemail. Check it out. It's always a really good time listening to the flagship. They crush it every single week. They have me howling, laughing. Call the Hawk, whatever it is, they're always having me laughing. The entrance theme invitational is continuing. Man, you guys don't know the great entertainment you guys are getting. All free. Buy a shirt, subscribe, like. We're almost at 800 subscribers, so we're going to be doing a big giveaway when we get to 800. So please tell your friends. Spread the word.
Yes.
Turnbuckle Tavern's here to stay.
And for some reason, whenever I hear Freems Fab 5, I hear the little Beatles do 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 at the end of it. I think that needs to be a little audio clip.
I love the dogs barking with the rap beat. So I think if you could tie the Beatles into that.
I don't know why I hear that in my head, but
I hear a lot of things in my head, Tom. But
you hear voices in your head?
Yeah, Randy Orton told me best. So it hasn't stopped since 2000. Whatever, he got that theme. So
I get it. All right, guys. So until next week, for Ace, it's Tom. For everybody else here at the Tavern, love, peace, and pro wrestling.